Hello, welcome to another episode of Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, writer for ScreenRant.com and huge manga lover. I put together Manga Mondays to talk about new series, new chapters, and I got some buddies to help me out with talking some My Hero Academia today. And before we dive right in, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. Ben, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm Ben. I'm a writer for Screen Rant for the comics and anime and manga sections. And I mean, My Hero has been a series that I've been following for quite some time, I'll say. So I'm excited to discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have we didn't talk last chapter, which was 376. So we're going to be kind of covering the events of the last couple chapters. And we're going to wait to talk about the anime until we get a couple more episodes out because the next arc is very exciting. But also here to help us talk about 377 of My Hero Academia, Steven, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, my name's Steven, write for the comics / manga / anime section, as well as interviews whenever some good interviews come that way. But yeah, like Ben, been following My Hero for a while. I'm actually more excited about where the anime is headed.
Yes.
That is another discussion.
And we also have Screen Rant, My Hero Academia experts. Always good to have him on. Carlyle, how are you today, buddy?
Hey guys, doing good. These two chapters have a little bit in them, and we'll talk about that a little bit, won't we?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how much we can squeeze out of it. But we'll go ahead and jump into My Hero Academia chapter 377 chat. Yeah, this is definitely the turning point that we've been kind of, I hate to say it, but we call a lot on this podcast of what's about to happen with My Hero Academia. I don't know if it's just because we're so smart and awesome and professional nerds, or if Horikoshi's just not doing a very good job of surprising us anymore.
Well, I'm not sure it necessarily needs to be a surprise, right? Like, I mean, it just
like Chainsaw Man.
Narrative. Well, Chainsaw Man's a subversive series, whereas My Hero Academia is very much not, right? Which is fine. Not every series has to be subversive, right? And part of what makes My Hero Academia so great in general is that it hits these very common notes very well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, we don't necessarily need the big twists that, Twice is coming back and messing up the fight to be an actual twist, as it's just sort of something that happens to like raise the stakes of the narrative. That was pretty clear that something like this was going to happen. So
yeah. I've got some notes down here on stuff that I really liked. I'll just go ahead and recite this line I wrote down. But the beginning of this chapter definitely was, "You get twice clones. You get twice clones. Everybody gets twice clones." Because twice clones are just showing up everywhere. I was hoping. I mean, Spinner definitely. As we've previously discussed, no condition for Spinner to be any more help anywhere else. So it being a whole bunch of Twice clones coming in and interrupting the Shigaraki fight was kind of unexpected, but it was honestly what needed to happen for everything to get a little bit more exciting, because Deku shows up and just obliterates Shigaraki, and it's just like, oh no, is this the end, or are we going to get to see an all-out fight? And it seems like that's what's gearing up to happen. So pretty exciting. But again, Shigaraki is in a competition with Bakugo for the most useless explosions. Because I am assuming that giant blast that we saw at the beginning of this chapter probably didn't kill anybody, even though it looks like it should have. It's page 4 or 5. It's almost the entire battlefield is just obliterated, like all the columns, everything. Like, we have Mirako on the ground, we have Bakugo on the ground, we have everybody just like in a really bad situation, and it's stuff like that just kind of kills some of the tension for me. Like, I get like this needs to be cool and scary, but when you do stuff like that and then cut back to the battlefield and everything's still like there, people are still like, oh man, I'm hurt, this sucks. It's just like, well, why do that? Like, just save that for some bigger stuff. But I guess that's just a little gripe I had. But it was really nice getting to see, I guess, Shigaraki kind of get his composure back, especially with all the quirks being not repressed anymore. He's able to heal. He's able to do whatever Horikoshi essentially wants him to be able to do now, because that's the whole thing with like having these villains that just have an endless supply of quirks. Like we could wonder like, oh, maybe he's got this, maybe he's got this. It's just like, well, I think Horikoshi is just going to write whatever he needs Shigaraki to be able to do. But no, what are some of your guys' thoughts on this sudden turn on this battle?
I mean, I'll just say the one thing that I'm excited about, just about Shigaraki seeming to revert back to who he was. Like he's getting his own personality back. He's using the aura pronoun. And I think I'm hoping this will be a precursor to was foreshadowed a while ago when Shigaraki had that random freak out about how he had friends when he was fighting Lemillion. And it seems like that's something that needs to be explored. And it was going to be harder for him to do that, if he's, fighting over his own identity with All For One. But now that he seems to be coming back into his own, you might be able to see that soon. That's what I'm looking forward to, at least. That's needs to happen. Hopefully it will happen.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if All For One's temporary body is going to show up to this battlefield, which would be pretty awesome and exciting, I think.
I feel like that would actually diminish the point of the split battlefield, right? Like the point of the split battle for me is that like Shigaraki is Deku's arch enemy, right? Like that's they need to have the one-on-one fight there and hash that out. But like the other heroes still need like a big threat to face, and that is All For One, right? So that's how I view his purpose there. I think if he shows up at the Shigaraki fight, it would diminish the impact of the Shigaraki versus Deku fight largely. I mean, there are ways it could be done well, but I mean, I don't trust really Horikoshi to pull off any of those ways well, given recent events.
I mean, I would say it could go, because like one of the things I'm also excited about is just how much All For One has just been blatantly using Shigaraki, and that it was probably, like I know it was alluded to earlier, that this was all part of his plot, that he was going to be taking over Shigaraki's body. And I would like to, by having All For One there, it would, create that tension of, Shigaraki obviously is on all For One side, but knowing, that this was his plan all along, that could cause a lot of friction, just because, All For One was there at his lowest point and seemingly built him up for the better, but when it was basically just for his own purpose. So like, I feel like there is some things that have to be resolved there between those two characters, just because he as an All For One has been using Shigaraki badly. So
well, yeah, and I kind of like that in this chapter too. Like they even say like it was one of the wielders in Deku's head, like they don't seem to be getting along in their head there. Like All For One is kind of having a hard time controlling all this. So yeah, I think that was a theory we came up with like quite a few podcasts ago. It's just like I personally think it'd be awesome if like the end result turns into like Shigaraki and Deku teaming up against like an All For One. And then maybe that's how Shigaraki dies, and then he redeems himself at the end. And
I mean, I think this is where we got to remember how much Horikoshi loves Star Wars, and what would be more Star Wars than for him to go all Darth Vader, throwing All For One down the pit.
Yeah. Oh man, how great would it be if it even is like that setup? Like he throws him off of the the floating platform or something.
And then All For One's like, "Why'd you do that? I can fly."
I was just about to say, I almost see like a not spoilers for Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it would be really cool if Deku like somehow takes it from All For One, and like puts it on himself almost.
I mean, speaking of Avatar, I feel like Deku is going to let Shigaraki live or try to get Shigaraki to live, because they've been constantly bringing up like Shigaraki's just someone crying out for help and I need to help them.
The new opening for the anime, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very, I like the new opening. But that, it's like, oh, come on. The fact that they're putting this in the opening. I mean, I know it's a big part of, Deku's personality.
Oh, I mean, hell, even in the last one, the last intro, I think too had a lot of like, oh, Shigaraki's just a sad guy. Help him out, Deku. Like
the last one did. I thought the last one was more just like fighting and just showing off.
It kind of was, but there's
stuff.
Yeah,
there's definitely stuff of like
guys are talking about
the openings. But
anime openings.
Yeah. I mean, this opening was great, but like I just saw that and I was like, whenever I see that, I'm like, come on, Deku. Like this episode showed the devastation, like all the many people Shigaraki killed and stuff, and it's like, Shigaraki's the real victim here.
That was actually the ending of the latest episode I watched. I am unfortunately an episode behind on the anime, but it ended with I can never forgive you, Shigaraki, for all those things that you did, but you look like you needed help on that one Shadow Realm Mind Palace conversation we had, so I'm willing to save your life because I am here.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have been referencing her or not, because I'm kind of lost in that conversation. But like the point where when All For One was first sucking Shigaraki up, like I remember, like that chapter happened a while ago, but where the only thing that Deku could focus on was the fact that there was fear in Shigaraki's eyes, and that I think you might have already referenced this, but that's
I think that's the same event. It's just the anime definitely represented it a little differently. But,
they did? Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think that's where it's all coming to a head. I just think that would be the coolest thing to happen. But I really don't see Shigaraki like suddenly like, I'm a good guy now. He's gone too far for sure. But I still think that he has some mini redemption arc in store. I don't know. I'm still most captivated by All For One's original form. Just the mastermind pulling all the strings and stuff like that. And he's on a time limit, as they established, I think, in the last chapter. But with Dabi keeping up Endeavor, and I don't see a lot of people on that battlefield who are going to be able to keep All For One from leaving. But we'll see. We'll see how it happens. But Carlo, what are your thoughts on the recent events, man?
Yeah, obviously for me, my big storyline that I'm invested is Kurogiri and Aizawa, and we did have him kind of recognize, oh, they're here now. That's not good. So we did get that going on, but I also there was a scene where they get tackled by all the Twice clones. I want to point out, you can see it's on the third page, I think. But you can see Aizawa, as they're all getting tackled, he reaches out and touches Monoma so that he doesn't lose the erasure quirk.
Oh, okay. So it could still, it could still be there.
He could still have that ability. He just isn't looking at anybody yet. But on the other hand, it would also be cool if he got twice his quirk. That would lead to some real craziness. So I'm okay either way.
God. That would be awesome. I didn't even think about that. Then he'd be able to possibly copy more than one thing at a time. Maybe. Oh boy, that would be pretty cool. Oh man, good catch there. It's kind of the whole idea too of like multiplying Deku's core, or like the other theory we keep on having is that Deku's gonna like, as a last ditch effort, possibly try to pass All For One to all of his allies. So then everybody is super powered or super boosted. And Monoma's ability plus with Twice's ability, and that could get pretty exciting. That could be some cool stuff.
Crazy.
Well, Twice's ability is just like a literal manifestation of One For All, because he's taking one and he's making it into all. And
Good point.
so it'd be interesting if through a monoma twice, Deku spreads the one for all by making like duplicates, and I don't know. It'd be very trippy. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it's gonna happen or not, but
Right. An interesting theory. I kind of want to see it happen now. Speaking of things that I didn't want to see happen, and I guess not to just jump ahead to the final bit of this chapter, but isn't like the villain hacker dude's like whole quirk like hacking? I was kind of like bothered that Labrava. I don't mind Labrava coming back because it kind of makes the gentle criminal arc a little bit more important. Because
Yeah,
up until this
everyone
point,
everyone on the comments are freaking out about that. That's like
Yeah.
on the Viz.com website. Like it's like,
Oh,
he's
alright.
back.
see, I don't mind the character, but it's just like she's just a young girl who's like good with computers,
no,
and
she's
she's
not a young girl. She's very. They make a
Oh, right, is
distinction of
she-
saying she's like in her 20s.
in her 20s, right? Okay, so she's a girl in her 20s who's good at hacking or just good with computers, but I don't know. I thought that villain dude's whole thing was like it's literally like his quirk to be able to control machines and stuff like that. So her being able to like out hack him just feels like way too convenient for me.
Well, So I decided to go look it up because I wasn't sure what his quirk was, and it looks
Okay,
like
cool.
his quirk is he can use human-sized objects such as desks or refrigerators to turn into lifelike puppets. So it doesn't seem to have
Oh.
anything to do, but he does use his laptop to control them, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
his power
my
isn't
bad.
really hacking related, but it does involve his computer.
Okay. So that makes it a little less egregious that she's just suddenly out hacking him. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay.
I'm just hoping for like an NCIS sort of hacking scene where she's like hacking
Enhance.
and she's like, "Oh, I need help. You get here. You type on the other half of the keyboard." And
We're getting in.
yeah, you need two people per keyboard. That's how we outpace the enemy.
Oh boy. I bet that's how the anime will handle it.
Probably
Yeah.
will look like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see Shigaraki back. I mean, back when Shigaraki was just laying waste before Deku showed back up, he had that like sweet new like armor skin that he had developed. Like his body just keeps on adapting to whatever he needs. And so I'm really excited to see what he transforms into next because now that he's got full control of all of his quirks and stuff like that, maybe he won't even like change his form. Maybe because he just has full control of whatever he wants to do now, he doesn't necessarily need that. But as I said, I think Horikoshi's just gonna, have him be like, "Oh man, Deku just hit me with the force of a truck. Well, good thing I have this quirk that is anti-truck ability." Like,
Well,
so we'll see where he's going with it.
he doesn't have unlimited abilities, partially because of Star and Stripe. So let's
I
hope
keep
that,
forgetting that. Yeah.
let's hope that actually plays a role. But
I hope we do get definitely more clarification on like the Star and Stripe effect, because I feel like they kind of just brushed over, like, oh man, that could have been worse, and then we got a couple thought bubbles on the destruction of the quirks in his head and stuff, and I'm really hoping that we get more of that, more time with that. But yeah, I don't know. Seeing La Brava just makes me hope that we'll get to see Gentle again. I know he's in prison, but we've had prison breaks. I really liked the Gentle criminal dude, and I'll be curious to see how if he could play a role in the story any further. I highly doubt it will be as awesome as Lemillion coming back, which is one thing I wanted to talk about the anime. They screwed up. Like, one of my favorite parts of the whole series is when Lemillion comes back to save everybody during that Shigaraki fight. I just remember in the manga, like, his face peeks out and then he comes in and says power, and you're like, oh my god, he's back. My head. The anime like goes out of their way to have him save somebody else, so it like ruins that he's there. And then it cuts to that part, and I was just like, you totally threw out the tension of him just showing up and it being out of nowhere and just like, oh my god, I thought Lemillion's powers were all gone. And it was like one of my, I remember like jumping out of my seat when I read that chapter because I was so excited. I love Lemillion, and I thought the anime didn't do it justice, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm excited to see more Shigaraki fight. We kind of jumped away from the Endeavor stuff that's going on, but where are you guys hoping it goes next? Or any theories on what the next chapters could be?
Well, I mean, I'll just quickly jump in and say, because I completely forgot about it. I had to look it up because I wrote about it a while ago. But just talking about, Shigaraki's redemption, possible redemption. Like I remember there was a point, it was chapter 365, where at least, Horikoshi was trying to make Shigaraki seem bad, like especially his awakening. Like there was that point where it was like during a really emotional time for him, so he's emotionally vulnerable, so most likely speaking from areas of truth. And in that moment he was able to admit to himself that he wasn't broken back then, which creates the impression that when he ended up killing his family, it actually wasn't on purpose. Because I remember there was a moment when we first learned about Shigaraki's past, it was from the perspective of present day Shigaraki with all of his warped ideals, saying that he most likely knew that by touching his family they would die. But in that moment, like, it seems like Horikoshi is starting to move towards redemption, just because we've seen Shigaraki recently say or admit that he wasn't broken at the time, and which in turn admits that he's broken now, which means, if he's saying he's broken, that means it's something that should be fixed, or that can be fixed, or he wants to be fixed. So I thought that's something fun to throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be definitely a turn if he started realizing that what All for One is doing to him is not good. But I mean, we've started to get those glimpses, especially when he's not like Weekend, and you hear All for One like, "No, do this, Shigaraki," and Shigaraki's like, "No, I don't want to do that." But it looks like you had something, Carlyle. What you got, man?
No, nothing super important. Just
Oh.
since we finally gotten to that point where Shigaraki can use his quirks, we better stay here and see him use some quirks. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did
It's
someone
kind
say
of
jump
like,
cut to another part of the battlefield?
yeah. Yeah, I would almost expect they go to like, I wouldn't mind going to the Dobby situation, just because I've been waiting for Endeavor and Dobby to like finally get that over with. Um,
I just
I'm
want
with
everyone
Steven.
to talk. I just want everyone
Yeah.
to talk.
We are talking.
Well,
Just get out,
loved-
bitch.
I love Shigaraki bringing that up in this chapter. He's just like, what? What would you do if this was me, Shigaraki, right now? Talk at the mall? Like, I loved that little callback there. But yeah, and I'm with Steven. I am ready for more Toga and Ochako. I'm more ready than I have been for the past few months, where it was a joke that they might not cover that at all.
Yeah.
But
It's
now
still
that
it's a
they've
joke. I thought that they're actually not going to cover it at all, because
Get out of here, Ben.
they just had, like, Ochako do the twice thing, and then, or not Ochako, Toga do the twice thing. Then Ochako was like, I'm ready to talk about boys. And then I figured that they're going to just, maybe have one panel on that later where Ochako's like, I like Deku. And then Toga's like, whoa, and she dissipates the twice clones. And that's
That
it.
is what's going to
You
happen.
can.
That's what's going to happen, Ben.
So
Yeah.
shocked that they just go away.
You know what? I'm going to give Horikoshi a little bit more credit than that. There might be at least 3
No.
talk bubbles, and then it will cut away.
Like, that's fair.
Oh.
Yeah, I was being a bit harsh on Horikoshi there. Yeah,
Right.
that's more reasonable.
Oh God. But I would love that is probably in a nutshell what will happen.
I mean, I guess from my perspective, like, it's kind of, I mean, it might be just my own shortcomings and not seeing it, but I guess one of the reasons why I'm not as excited for these future battles, like I just want everyone to talk, is that I haven't really really related. I don't want to say related, but find like something, deeper about their powers. So I don't really care like how they use their powers in any way, because I don't see them as being deeper than they actually are. And again, that could be my own misreading of the situation, but that's just something that I've been struggling with, and maybe one of the reasons why I'm not excited about anyone battling.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't think most of the powers in the series are deeper than they are. I mean, you could
I mean, like I'm always
you could make arguments for them, like Ochako's powers weightlessness, and she's very lighthearted, and it's you could argue this stuff, but that's not ultimately what the series is about at the end of the day. So yeah, I think if you're looking for deeper meaning and all that, like.
Well,
I mean, as I said earlier in the podcast, like My Hero Academia is basically the epitome of just a classic shonen where it pulls off those tropes very well. And it's good for that reason, but there honestly isn't. If you're looking for like deep explorations of things or like a ton of meaning here, there's not really as much to be had as in other series. So
that's probably, I mean, exactly why I've never been that invested in the fight. Like even the paranormal liberation war, like I was always like meh when it was happening, and that's probably for that reason, because that's just something I've always liked about it, when powers are used to explain something much higher in relation to the character.
And I still see that happening too, because I mean we've dabbled with like quirk awakenings and stuff like that, and especially with like Toga, evolving her quirk to be able to use other people's quirks and stuff like that. So I see.
Toga is the one exception. I think that her abilities are very, very intriguing and just indicative of who she is as a person. So no, Toga is the exception.
I said, you can draw arguments for like a lot of different characters in their quirks for having some, like, you can assign some deeper meaning to them if you dive into it and assign it. But I think overall that's not what the series is about, right?
True.
So, it's not really what it's not really what Horikoshi is interested in.
Which is a shame, because like when you can pick that out, because I've just always been the proponent of, of course an author is going to write what they want, but I feel like the more compelling stories are ones when it's more easily available or for the reader to make their own assumptions and more easily
it's
what it means. And of course anyone can do it, like obviously, but it seems like it's just there's too many instances where Horikoshi is just pushing certain ideas that make it difficult for that to happen.
Well, it's interesting because, I mentioned Togashi, who is the author of Hunter x Hunter, and Hunter x Hunter is a series that very much does not really assign deeper meaning to its powers. It just sort of uses them for the plot and then derives deeper meaning from the plot. So I think you can definitely have a series that is very compelling and very deep and all this stuff that doesn't really put too much deeper meaning on the character's powers. But I mean, it's
boring. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hunter x Hunter is very compelling to me.
I feel like it's just overly in depth for the sake of being that. Like it's just very self-aware. Like it's like I get like it just feels like the manga, I don't even know his name. Like this goes out of his way to be like, I can tell this very intricate story and I'm going to make it as intricate as possible. And it's like, when I'm reading it, it's like, wow, you're one smart, person. Like, it's like, wow, this is very intense, but it's like, it is just nothing. Like,
I mean, it makes
all I'm seeing is like, I'm just appreciating just how smart and nuanced it is, but it's like I'm not getting any personal enjoyment out
Like
of it.
I'd say that, you know, it makes the conflicts a lot more nuanced and like allows the characters to shine their conflicts even
I wish I could
more.
get
But I mean, that's a discussion for a Hunter x Hunter podcast if we ever had one.
Yeah.
Now the series is back on hiatus, unfortunately, but
That would be fun to talk about, just because just the
and I'm a big Hunter x Hunter fan. But this is my hero, so
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we're talking about. We're here to talk about my hero.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying when it comes to like, you know, exploring quirks as a way for the storytelling, and that I agree that's not really what My Hero has always been about. But I think it is, you know, about them like reaching and, you know, pushing their limits to attain new levels of strength and stuff like that. And I don't think we've seen that with Ochako yet. I think that we could see her awaken her quirk in this battle for something. Just really curious what that could possibly be, because her quirk is already quite overpowered, I think, if used in the right context, or especially with the right teammates. So I'm wondering what she's going to be able to do against the whole army of Twices and stuff like that. Maybe levitating just a particularly large part of land to get them separated or something. But
she comes through the portal and picks up the whole school and keeps it from hitting the ground. That's what happens.
Oh man, that'd be great.
She controls gravity and makes a black hole.
Just crushes them into dust.
Yeah. Just like, if nobody can have it, or if the heroes can't win, nobody wins.
I mean, think of it this way: like, she can make things weightless and then give them weight. Why can't she just give things weight? And if she could give things weight, she can turn them into black holes. And there you go. That's how we're defeating All for One.
Yeah. Ochako is the ultimate MVP of the whole series at the end.
Taking a page out of Jujutsu Kaisen.
No, get that out of here.
Why? Jujutsu Kaisen is, well, I mean, I think
JJK is good.
Yeah, especially these latest chapters. Whew. But that's a discussion for a different podcast.
Which will never happen. I'm just kidding.
Let us know in the comments. We'd be happy to do more JJK podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess anything else to say about My Hero Academia today, gentlemen? Because as we said, some stuff happened, but it really just feels like kind of the turning point. The things were going a little too well for the heroes in this plan. And then as soon as we jumped over to the heteromorph situation, everything started to deteriorate. They failed, obviously, to get Kirigiri restrained. So all hell is breaking loose and everything's going very well for the villains right now. But luckily, La Brava's there to out-hack the guy. I'm still thinking that All Might have something to do with everything. We haven't seen him in a very long time. He hasn't had anything to do with the main plot. I honestly think him dying will be the big trigger for everybody. Like, all right, we got to do this. Like that might. I almost feel like him dying would be the inspiration.
Well, and then
I thought Bakugo's death was that death.
We need it again, I guess.
Well, and I think kind of to build on that, like All Might dying is just so important, because what I think is so interesting that happened in earlier chapters. I can't even remember which one it was during. No, it was during the Star and Stripe battle, where when Shigaraki got involved, and there was this illusion that was made where basically if the quirk, so when the consciousness of the former user, in that quirk is able to think of or is inspired by All Might, it creates the sense that, it creates that vestige of him, which kind of creates this idea that as the nice symbolic meaning where as long as you think of someone, they will never truly die if you remember who they are. Like, it seemed like that was the kind of thing that we might be building towards, that even if All Might does die, as long as we remember his strength, he can end up manifesting in some way to fight evil.
Well, to be fair, in the quirk space, I think the past one for all, not all for one. I think the past one for all holders are just there forever, right? Or as long as the quirk exists. So, yeah.
Well, absolutely. So we've got lots of ideas on where it could go next. I agree with everybody. I'm very interested to see pretty much the next chapter of every one of these fights that's going on. I'm reinvested in like everything. And as I said, I'm more invested in the Toga.
You are.
Ochako thing now. So
yeah, you are.
Because that definitely took an exciting turn. So, and it's actually more interesting the more I think about it too, because now Ochako and Toga have switched roles. Like Toga's the one like, you know what, we're past the point of talking. I just need to go do this thing. And Ochako's like, but boys, well, what about boy? Let's talk about boys. Have girl time. And
that's why I'm so excited about that, because the only way that she can really bring it back, she being Ochako, is by admitting her true feelings for Deku, which needs to happen. Because I originally thought it was going to happen when Ochako, was standing on the top of UA.
Oh yeah, well, that would have been that would have been a good time to initiate that. But that's why I think that's why I think when Ochako talks about it, she's going to be like, I just see him as a friend.
And then he's like a brother.
Yeah. Steven will rage quit the series at that point.
Yeah, rage quit.
It's okay, Deku. There's still Asui.
Yeah, there's still Asui and also the mechanic girl, and it just
mechanic
kind of the guy.
She loves his leg things.
Yeah,
and that was the thing too that kind of got me hope too a little bit, because when he was still around her, he was all like the girls, obviously because she's very voluptuous, so that happened. So who knows.
Well, because I love the anime trope where the main protagonists are very awkward around any member of the opposite sex. It's my favorite anime trope.
And they can't get enough of it.
No, I'm not being. I'm being sarcastic. Very sarcastic.
Oh, I am on the other side completely.
No, I hate that. It's just so
it's obvious who loves Black Clover in here. So
I can't.
Anyway,
it is so much more than that. Noelle.
Sure, it is.
Noelle has evolved insanely as a character.
Oh, sure, but I'm more like just the whole like all female characters just fall mindlessly in love for the MC, and I think Black Clover is like one of the worst offenders with that. It's just like, oh, hey, there's this new girl. Hi, my name's Asta.
Oh, best offenders. The best offenders.
Well, I think we've thrown out our theories on what will happen next. I think we'll go and wrap up, unless you guys have any final thoughts on My Hero Academia today.
That's it for me.
All right, cool. Well, the series is on break next week, so we'll probably be doing a podcast afterwards, because we'll also have some. We're very excited for this new arc of My Hero Academia to get adapted to. I thought they did pretty well with this last one. As I said, I had my gripe with the Lemillion reveal. I had a few gripes, honestly. There's a lot of like really cool moments that were Horikoshi just drew amazingly, and I don't feel like this season of the anime had those like the Overdrive battle where they people are sharing that clip over and over again just because it's so like mind-blowingly amazingly awesome to look at. And there's a few moments in this last arc that I was expecting something similar. Of course, they can't like blow their budget on all of these moments, but my expectations were a little higher. But I think we have a couple very epic fights. One fight in particular that I'm very excited to see in this next arc with a certain lady. Very exciting.
She shows up in OP, and it's like, I was like, all the manga readers went crazy over that one clip.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be talking about it, so stay tuned to Mega Manga Mondays. Follow us on Twitter at Manga Mondays, and if you want to check out other series, we talk about other series on the podcast too, like One Piece. We got some Jujutsu Kaisen. We've been doing a lot of Chainsaw Man. Had a lot of fun with that. We talked about the finale of the anime recently and our expectations for season 2.
Great
so go back and
conversation,
check
by
that
the
out.
way. Great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
but-
We had to split it up into 2. So
Yeah, we're still waiting to talk about the last few chapters of the manga, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, you can find Mega Manga Mondays on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. If you watch us on YouTube, though, you get to see our amazing faces and the things I'm doing with my hands right now.
oh wow.
So, whoa!
Oh, wait, what are you doing? I don't have it up. What are you doing?
Oh
Do it
man,
again.
You'll have to watch the video.
You'll have
back
to subscribe, man.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it if you followed us and let us know what your favorite parts were too. And if there's anything that you think we didn't bring up, we'd love to hear from you. So as I said, you can find us on YouTube. Let us know in the comments there. Hit that follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. But we also have a website with everything on it, podcast-wise, megamangamondays.podbean.com. And I, Jason Hahn, have another YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. I do comedic Let's Play videos with some very funny friends. We're playing Metal Gear Solid and Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 4 right now. A lot of fun. It's really, if you like just hanging out with buddies and laughing and playing video games, it's probably up your alley. So be a friend and subscribe to Honzy and Friends. Ben, how about you, man?
Yeah, in terms of recommendations, Vinland Saga Season 2 has started this week. And it's great. It's just, Season 1 was superb as well. And this is already off to a great start. So definitely check it out if it's something that interests you. Probably going to be the best show of the season. But, I haven't seen all the other shows yet. It's just...
Undead Unluck is coming, man. Undead Unluck is coming.
Not this season.
Wait, it's coming in 2023.
Yeah, not this season.
This
as in this. Yeah.
This time of the year.
The winter season, next 3 months.
Yeah.
But,
I know those are big words because Trigun, I loved. Trigun's back, and the new Nier Autonoma anime, I'm also quite into. So
you gotta watch out Vinland.
Time.
I mean, the first episode of Vinland Saga is
good.
So devastating.
I'm glad to hear,
but very good. But in terms of plugs, I have a YouTube channel of my own as well. It's called YGO from Zero, and in it I go over historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to check that out.
Absolutely. And Carlyle, how is your stuff going, man?
Yep. As usual, I'll point you over to my visual novel Elven Revenue Service. We are finally just commissioning some more CGs, so hopefully whenever I get the new demo up, there will be new CGs in it as well. And try and get it on Steam soon. So
nice. That's awesome,
man. Well, yeah, I'm going to have links in the description and stuff to all of our plugs and everything else we're working on. But yeah, Elven Revenue Service is the visual novel Carlyle's been working on, and you can follow updates for that on Twitter. Every update you post, it's looking like it's coming along really nicely. We're working on something pretty cool. So if you're into visual novels, definitely check it out.
Who isn't into visual novels? Who isn't?
Exactly.
You like stories, you'll like it. And speaking of good
Weirdos?
content,
Oh no,
actually that's better. Yeah. Speaking of weirdos, Steven, what you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that just really enjoyed the last Blue Exorcist chapter that came out. I kind of freaked out on Discord a little bit, but yeah, it seems like. Well, very underrated series, but right now, basically everything that everyone has understood about what the series was about is not what it's about. So that's always great when things like that happen. So, so good time in Blue Exorcist land, and that's it at this moment, I think.
All right, excellent. Well, it's been a lot of fun talking to My Hero Academia. Like always, thank you guys so much for your time. It's always good hearing your thoughts and kind of improving my enjoyment of some of these series.
Some.
But yeah. Yeah, I look forward to the next one, and I hope you'll be here next time.
Yeah, see y'all then.
Peace.